election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please?
This is Congressman Andy Ogles. When Ben Franklin exited Independence Hall, he was asked, "What have you given us?" And he replied, "A republic if you can keep it." America has answered. We know what it's going to take to save the republic, and that is secure elections, which is why in the House we passed the SAVE Act and the Save America Act. John Thune, it's your turn. For this 4th of July, celebrate your country, answer the call of Ben Franklin, and pass the Save America Act.
Welcome, friends. It sure warms my old heart to have you here with me today. Before we dive into today's tale, please take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up and share it with your family and friends. Your support means the world and helps us spread these positive, uplifting stories all across our beautiful country. Now, let us begin.
We are just living in such a different universe if you're a Republican versus a Democrat on the basic fundamental question of being proud to be an American.
President Trump asked members to stand up if they agreed with a statement.
First duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Democrats wouldn't stand.
Democrats couldn't clap for a little boy battling brain cancer.
They wouldn't stand for two of the last remaining heroes of the Second World War.
This is surely not your father or grandfather's Democrat Party.
These people, they don't love America.
Is anybody really surprised? This is the result of what is decades now of Democratic leaders, academia, the media mob trashing our great country.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
And then wants us to sing God Bless America? No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America.
For the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of my country.
Use the words America first. I don't like all the connotations of that.
There's nothing special about being American. None of you can define for me what an American is.
Honey, fathers do not live and die for this. I can't celebrate July 4th.
Nobody black I know is really excited about the 4th of July because it is a celebration of slaveholders.
For over 400 years, this country has profited off the stolen labor, the stolen land, and stolen lives of black people.
America has a long history of systemic racism.
This country was founded on white supremacy.
A country that was built on the accommodation of slavery.
Racism is part of an inherent fabric of this country.
We have a city where we are reckoning with the long history of racism here.
It's not like America has been all too kind to brown folk.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
I remember the first time I went back to northern Minnesota, and I was just kind of shocked at how many white people there were.
It's hard not to agree with this op-ed by activist Afton Ben. Let me be clear. Tennessee is a racist state.
You know, we were born of genocide in California.
We had a racist flag, so we got a new flag in Minnesota.
Darializa Avila Chevalier said in a 2019 tweet, "I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me."
The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us, and in some ways its true meaning has been betrayed.
The land that is stolen that we're sitting on.
We are on stolen land.
To have a democracy, a beacon of hope, turned into one of the worst countries.
Political structures that I have to work in, that we all are surrounded by, was built on slavery and genocide and rape and oppression.
There are a lot of people in this country who are like, I'm not feeling patriotic, I'm conflicted.
They should feel that way.
The dumbing of the United States has arrived.
We will be remembered in the dustbin of history in the way that Adolf Hitler was. At a rally in your district, people were chanting "Death to America." Do you condemn?
Talk
I think we do have a real opportunity to make some significant changes and build a real left caucus.
America deserved 9/11, dude.
Was 9/11 an inevitable consequence for America based on U.S. foreign policy?
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response.
Every day I hear about a new, very radical.
We are winning from coast to coast. Now we're in Congress, and we're every corner of the United States.
Okay, I've read the quotes from the DSA.
It should not be controversial to say death to U.S. imperialism and death to U.S. empire. This should be the moderate position.
Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I am seeing.
Empires never die quietly, and we must end the American empire regardless.
The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
Look at this room, motherfuckers! We ain't going anywhere!
Fire the parliamentarian and pass the SAVE Act. You've been very clear as to why the SAVE Act doesn't have the votes to pass and why firing the parliamentarian would create problems here. But are you worried that if you don't do what the president wants, that he's going to criticize your leadership or perhaps withdraw support for your leadership?
That could happen. Look, and it's a well-known fact around here. Sometimes perhaps not fully grasped around the country, but anybody who follows this process closely knows that we don't have the votes. And the only way that you could figure out a way to get the votes, and even in that case, the Save America Act didn't even get 50 votes last week on the floor of the Senate. But even if you confine it to just the two issues of photo ID and citizenship in order to register to vote, on those two issues, it takes 60 votes in the Senate. The only way you could get there is to undo or get rid of the legislative filibuster, and there aren't even close to the votes here in the United States Senate in order to achieve that. So it's an issue we all agree on. We're all for it, and we've all voted that way. But it's not something that we're going to be able to get done absent having an election and electing some more Republicans.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3.25 years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get in. They're doing it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips, too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom. But if you have a Democrat senator or two is bad, but it doesn't make any difference. If you have one senator writes a negative letter on some great U.S. attorney, we had it in Manhattan, Southern District, Jay Clayton, one of the most respected lawyers in the whole country, by far, one of the most respected, and couldn't get approved. The courts approved him. The courts couldn't believe it. They did it like instantly. He went to the best schools, got the best marks, top of his class. Everything was perfect. I mean, he was led the perfect life. Went to Sullivan and Cromwell.
Of American voter files, and it does, if overwhelming majorities of Americans support voter ID, and they do, then what exactly, Mr. President, are we waiting for? What is it that is so critical, that is so essential, that is so timely, that is so time sensitive, that we're not debating this right now? Why don't we pull this bill up right now and debate it and announce that we're going to debate it until it passes? If we were to do that, it would pass. It might take us a few days, it might take us a few weeks, but it would pass. Because the same animating desire, the smell of jet fumes, would eventually work its will, work its magic, and put our members into a state of intoxication or sanity, regardless of how you might perceive it, where they would eventually negotiate this thing to the point that they could accept it. Because they know that with every passing day when they filibuster this bill gets more popular and they get less popular. And if you add to that the fact that they shouldn't be able to go home until we're finished with this, none of us should. If we were truly doing our job here, then the 60-vote cloture standard wouldn't be perceived as the insuperable obstacle that it's been described wrongly as being here today. For a very long time, Mr. President, this chamber operated without so much as a cloture rule. Even after the cloture rule was adopted in 1917 for the first time, still, breaking a filibuster usually didn't involve a cloture vote. Most of the time, it just meant the Senate would come in and say, okay, we're debating this bill until it passes. If you want to filibuster it, you're going to have to speak. If you stop speaking and nobody else shows up to speak against it, then we'll call the question. We'll do so at a simple majority vote. It's only in the modern Senate we've gotten our entire bearings wrong on what the filibuster is. Its whole purpose is to facilitate and prolong robust, meaningful debate. The modern filibuster, in which we look at it as a simple vote counting exercise. Unless you can count to 60 on day one of a bill's consideration, you consider it failed. That, Mr. President, it's not just that it doesn't amplify, it doesn't further the purpose of the filibuster.
Folks, gather round and listen close, because what we have been seeing these past few days in Washington has my old heart pounding with hope and pride like it has not in a long, long time. I am just an everyday American who has watched this great country through thick and thin. I have always stood tall for the simple values that made us strong: faith, family, hard work, and putting America first every single time. And right now, sitting here today, I want to tell you about the bold leadership of President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. We are watching a kind of hard work that reminds me exactly why I believed in this great movement from the very start. You might have heard about a late-night push that is changing how things work in our capital. It has been building up these last few days. President Trump and Vice President Vance have been working so hard, day and night, to clear the way past an old rule they call the zombie filibuster. Now, if you do not know what that is, it is just a dusty old rule that has been holding up good common sense laws for far too long. It was like a giant, heavy rock sitting right in the middle of the road, stopping all the helpful things our country desperately needs to grow and be safe. Well, Senator John Thune found himself right in the middle of all this action. After some very earnest late-night talks and a whole lot of careful teamwork from the White House, the path is opening wider than ever. Senator Thune has been looking at the true facts and listening to the strong, loud voice of the American people. Because of that, he is gracefully stepping back from blocking the way, so the real work can finally move forward. This is not some make-believe story. It is the steady, never giving up strength of President Trump's vision, pushing good things forward right in front of our eyes. Picture it. The big, beautiful lights of the Capitol building burning bright late into the quiet night. President Trump simply does not sleep on the job. He has been working tirelessly from the Oval Office, speaking plainly to the whole country. He wants to move past that old rule so we can pass the Save America Act. That is a very special law that makes sure we have real voter ID. So every single legal American vote counts, strong, fair, and clear. When I talk to my neighbors or the kind folks down at the grocery store, they all feel this same spark of hope. They want to know their voices are heard and protected. Vice President Vance has been right there beside our president, speaking clearly in meetings, telling everyone that a big group of lawmakers is ready to do the right thing if we just clear the road. The support from everyday folks calling in has been growing so fast. Senator Thune had to face it head on in those late hours, hearing from everyday people who just want their country to be fair, safe, and happy. The old roadblock is giving way to a new morning. The doors are opening, and that, my friends, is a massive, beautiful win for every family in America.
Supposedly, one of my colleagues called the effort to pass the Save America Act in the Senate a charade. Well, My guess is that whoever said that but didn't have the guts to put their name to it is somebody who's a co-sponsor of the Save America Act, who openly, actively tells his constituents that he's a co-sponsor of the Save America Act, and maybe even tells donors that in order to raise funds. Regardless, this isn't going away. I'm not going away. This thing's not a charade. And I'm doubling down on this. I'm going to work twice as hard just because you said that, whoever you are.
Before the Senate is asking for people to have real ID or a passport or a birth certificate to register. When people are generally asked about voter ID, they're being asked to show an ID when they show up to vote. But what I'm asking you, Senator, because I know you're against the Save America Act, what kind of voter ID could you support? Is there a middle ground?
Look, Democrats support voter ID, and many states do, but that's not what the SAVE Act does. It will purge tens of millions of Americans from the voting lists, and they won't even know they're purged till they show up at the polling place and they say you're purged. And what is the mechanism for purging them? DOGE, what Elon Musk put in terms of the policies of what to do.
Out and show that the Democrats have been blocking that. And I just think, the Save America Act, I believe it's called. But anyway, you don't know what I'm talking about. You've got to show a birth certificate to play Little League Baseball in America. And yet now here we are, the Democrats are fighting us, saying it's going to cost millions of people the right to vote. Well, those millions of people happen to be illegals and dead. So those are the two categories that they're blocking. So and we're doing a terrible job at messaging that. For some reason, we don't want to get our hands dirty. And then you look at what's happened in New York. They're electing literally openly Marxist people.
To terminate the filibuster, everybody call John Thune at the Senate. He's the leader of the Republican Party, and tell him to get this stuff approved. Terminate the filibuster and approve everything. Because the Democrats are going to do it. The Democrats are going to terminate the filibuster as soon as they have a chance. And then they're going to approve Puerto Rico and D.C. as a state. They got 4 more senators. They're going to end up with 12 more congressmen. They're going to get like 40 electoral votes. If they are allowed to do that, by that time I'll be sitting home. And I'm not a big crier. I don't think you want to see me cry, There are some people, they do very well when they cry. But you don't want to see me cry. But I may be crying when I'll be sitting home and I'll say I told them they got to really terminate the filibuster, get everything approved right away. Because you're going to have a stoppage. You're going to have a stoppage in September. The Democrats won't approve everything. They become deranged, like deranged Jack Smith. Remember that?
Bills have to come back to the House. And so I've actually formed an alliance with a handful of other Republican members that will refuse to vote on any legislation to send it over to the Senate unless there's something specifically placed in it, and something called a rule that would prevent the Senate from stripping out the SAVE Act. So it would force them, if they choose to shut down the government, when they choose to reopen it, they will have to also then to simultaneously vote on the SAVE Act, which would basically save our country with election integrity. So we can play this game of chicken, but I do have a handful of Republicans that will stand with me very strong and ensure that this is done on behalf of the American people. So we're here to deliver.
Congresswoman, I tried to
U.S. Senator are, and Senator Barrasso has been one of the leaders on this. The big problem has been Senate Democrats refuse to follow common sense, like voter ID in elections, making sure that you have to be an American to vote in our elections, and also cleaning up some of the mess that California, Oregon, Washington states, and other blue states have brought with mail-in balloting. These are real problems. The Democrats don't want to fix them, so they withhold their votes so it doesn't get an up or down vote on the Senate. On the Senate floor. One of the things we did in the House last week before we left is we pushed forward legislation to ban congressional stock trading, and we put in that bill a requirement for voter ID, a driver's license ID in all 50 states when it comes to federal elections. Again, common sense policy that the vast majority of the American people support. So let's see what Senate Democrats have to say, because the big holdup in all of this is that the Democrats, elected Democrats have opposed the Save America Act, while registered Democrats, voters in this country, registered independents, registered Republicans, the American people have been wanting the Save America Act and strong voter ID laws to protect the American franchise that is voting in our elections. It's common sense. Let's see what the Democrats do.
Voters. And so I'm asking our Senate, because the House has done its job. It's passed the Save America Act 4 times. It just did NDAA. It just did the ban insider stock trading. It's time for the Senate to get off its behind and pass the country-saving Save America Act, which is photo voter ID and proof of citizenship. The American people demand election security. And thank you, Governor Mikey Sherrill, for making the case for us of why this legislation is so gosh darn important.
Being that toxic poison from killing our kids across this country, this president cares about the people. He's working every single day. And I think that at the end, and that's why we're doing things like the midterm convention, we have to bring this messaging and let people know the contrast, the fact that the Democrats are, it's common sense versus crazy, common sense versus communism. The fact that they're electing nominees who are basically openly saying they want socialism should scare everybody.
Okay, you got a story to tell. Dallas is 9-9 and 9-10 coming out of Labor Day weekend. Here we go, Politico. Let's talk about money. Politico writes Democrats have a massive outside cash problem. The 3 main GOP party committees and their 2 caucus-aligned super PACs have nearly twice as much cash on hand as their Democratic equivalents. Give me a quick answer on that. I'm going to get to know the topic.
Well, listen, the Supreme Court just ruled on coordinated campaign limits, which makes that number even bigger. Because, yes, we have 128 million, the most cash we've ever had in the Republican Party. We have the president, we have the vice president out there working hard every day. We're raising lots of money because we know what's at stake. We have no option other than to win in November. We have to win, so we're building up basically our silos, and we're going to obliterate these guys in November.
Okay, all right. Now, DSA is on the docket. And
this is not just about one late night or one single law in Washington. This is about a bright, warm vision lighting up our entire country from coast to coast. Think back to how President Trump fought for us. Before building a strong border, bringing good jobs back home, and making sure America was always treated fairly. Now he is back as our 47th president, and every single day he is proving that strong, brave leadership really works. For years, that old roadblock rule held us back like a heavy chain around our ankles. It stopped so many wonderful things from happening. But President Trump sees things so clearly. He knows that if we do not fix it right now, we might lose our chance to have safe towns, secure elections, and the precious freedoms we hold so dear. Vice President J.D. Vance understands this deep in his heart, too. He grew up right in the middle of our great country, in the heartland. He knows exactly what hardworking families need to get by, because he has lived it. He is full of fire and is never afraid to speak the truth about those silly political tricks they play. Together, they make a wonderful team, fighting for you and for me. I talk to folks every single day. My neighbors at the little diner down the street, my old friends from church, and young parents trying to buy groceries. Just the other morning, a hard-working dad from down my road looked at me, and his voice was steady but full of deep emotion. He had happy tears welling up in his eyes. He told me, if President Trump can push through and make our elections perfectly fair again, my kids might actually grow up knowing that this beautiful country still belongs to them. That right there is the real magic of this moment. Everyday Americans are feeling the hope return, like the sun coming out after a long storm. Farmers out in the Midwest are watching things get steady and strong again. Because our president is making sure trade is fair, factory workers down south are seeing more work because companies are bringing jobs back home to America. Moms and dads everywhere are breathing so much easier today, knowing our borders are safe and our neighborhoods are calm. When the Senate finally clears away these heavy roadblocks, laws like the Save America Act can make sure we all show a real ID when we vote. That means no more doubts and no more worries. It means that your vote, my vote, and the vote of every honest citizen carries the exact weight it is supposed to. And once that path is clear, we can fix the country's budget and get honest people in place to protect our values without any more delays. It is a beautiful thing to witness, my friends. It is a sound of freedom ringing true once again.
The Department of Homeland Security has found tens of thousands of registered non-citizens in the United States. Pursuant to Section 904 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I move to waive all provisions of the applicable budget resolutions. I move to waive all applicable sections of the Act and all applicable budget resolutions for purposes of the pending amendment, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there sufficient majority? I think the Republican senators use that against the House and say, listen, you can't afford to lose any votes either, so we can cause a stink. That really goes down the line on a reconciliation bill that the president floated, attaching the Save America Act to funding through that. It goes down to Pentagon funding. Just about everything right now seems to be a larger fight between House Republicans and Senate Republicans than Republicans and Democrats.
I think that's the frustrating part for me, is that when we ask representatives or senators about this, they often say, well, Democrats, it's like, I get it. I know the Democrat position on this. I know the Democrat position on mass mail-in voting and voter ID and citizenship. I know that. But my question is, why can't you get the Republicans in the Senate to move on this? And I understand that Senator Thune, Leader Thune, has said over and over again that he doesn't have the numbers. But you are the leader. So move them. Move them. That is your job.
Lydia, what are your thoughts on this?
And Rich and Luna and myself are not willing to allow that.
So based on your discussion, it sounds like you're moving towards.
Yes, based on our discussion right now, we're moving towards it. Also, we got assurances on the standing filibuster, which is incredibly important. I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about inherent contempt. A lot of people didn't know what that is. The standing filibuster is an old school parliamentary procedure, but it's a way to break through what we consider traditional norms to get voter ID passed. I think that it's brilliant that they came up with it, but exactly that's why we kind of have these discussions, and we're very happy about the outcome. So there should be a standing filibuster announced soon, and I would actually reach out to Senator Thune's office to ask him about that, because they have different rules in the Senate.
So that'll get you to yes tomorrow on the rule.
Yeah, as of right now, we feel very comfortable where we're at based on what we are discussing. Yeah.
Can I get your reaction to the Clintons agreeing to testify before the Oversight Committee?
I actually just got back from the White House, so that's our first knowledge of that, but I would say that, I actually had inherent contempt prepared for it to be a civil, essentially charge of $5,000 a day.
We can only lose the midterms if we allow ourselves to lose the midterms, if we are foolish, stupid, and unwise. But if we terminate the filibuster, as we should do, and immediately vote for the Save America Act, then we will not lose an election for 100 years. We do that, we're not going to lose an election for 100 years.
Voter ID. The Senate saying they may press forward and try to push this act forward that's passed the House. Take a listen to the polling on voter ID.
Normally, you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. It's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats.
He mentions Nicki Minaj because she put out on X, what sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID? Like, question mark. They're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? Is this a winner for Republicans? Can they turn this into a winner?
As is typically the case, Nicki Minaj has got it right on the head.
She's leading on the political
right
front.
On the head. Voter ID, I've been working on this thing for longer than I can
Why do you
remember.
think I asked you?
It is a no-brainer. It's always been a no-brainer. It doesn't matter how you break down the constituencies. The American people have always been in favor of it.
You have to use an ID to get a beer. Right. You have to get on a plane. You have to...
We built a society around it, as it turns out, and so it would only make sense if you had to vote with one, too. I think they ought to make these people vote on this as many times as they can, because there is no defense for not wanting voter ID at the polls. but it continues to be an issue over and over again. They ought to make this a dividing line. I don't know if it's in the context of this DHS bill. They got enough stuff to try to figure out with ICE and everything else in a short time period, but it really needs to be a central focus.
And they could get some Democrats, Kevin.
They certainly could get some Democrats. I point to my adopted home state of South Carolina that passed a bipartisan bill involving voter ID, extending early votes, some drop locations as well. Got the Congressional Black Caucus in Columbia, South Carolina on board. That can be a model. It doesn't. Democrats don't need to uniformly oppose this just to stand in opposition to the president.
All right.
Senate Majority Leader, and he's saying all of that because the Republicans in the Senate are not trying to push through his bill to restrict voting in this country.
Well, that's right. This is this horrible thing, the SAVE Act, one of the worst, most anti-election democracy things that's ever been proposed. They say it's all about ID, voter ID. It's not. They will remove 25 million people off the rolls. Why? Because they'll require, under this act, which is not going to pass, and we're not going to let it pass. We've defeated in court. I was a lead plaintiff in the decision to do that. We've refused to give them the votes that they would want for this. We never will. What it does is it says every state send your election rolls not to the Justice Department or the voting division, but to the Department of Homeland Security, where Musk and Doge and Vote have installed an algorithm that determines whether you're legitimately right to vote or not. The algorithm is a fix. It'll knock 20 million people, 30 million people off the rolls, and they don't tell you. So Mr. Lawrence O'Donnell could show up at the same voting place he showed up every so often, shown his same ID. Sorry, you're not on the rolls anymore, sir. Well, what do I do about it? Next week, go to the Board of Elections. Trump knows he will lose the election. He said it because he has created such chaos and because we Democrats have shown what we're for and the contrast between what we're for and he's for, and there's such a contrast. And so he's got to fix it. We're not letting them do it.
So one of the things
that you're going to get the Save America Act, the funding bill, you're going to need reconciliation for that. Where is it? You're saying wait for the House. The House has already passed a CR. They're still haggling over resolution. You're not even going to be here. You don't work 5 days a week. You're going to take off for a month. Where is it going to happen, Senator?
Larry, you're talking about the House again. The Senate's still here next week. Why don't you get Speaker Johnson on board to be able to have this conversation?
But you're going to be gone for a month. You know that. You're going to be gone for the Senate.
We are 3 weeks from now. Yes, we'll be gone because...
Serious about passing it. And I think we are, Mr. President. I know you are. We need to try to pass this legislation through reconciliation. Now, you know how reconciliation works, Mr. President. It means we can pass this bill with 50 Republican votes and the vice president to break the tie. That's how we pass the one big, beautiful bill. I would hope to get some of my Democratic friends to support us, but we don't have to have them. That's harder than I describe because, as you know, Mr. President, there are parameters on reconciliation. Anything you propose through reconciliation has to be paid for. We can find the money to pay for it. And anything you pass through reconciliation has to conform with the contours of the Budget Control Act. We call that giving a provision a bird bath. And our parliamentarian decides what passes muster under the Budget Control Act and what doesn't. Now, we've got a lot of smart lawyers in the United States Senate. Every single one of them thinks they're Oliver Wendell Scalia. But we got a lot of other smart lawyers in America. Here's what I'm getting at. We have yet to try going to these smart lawyers, some in the Senate and some, believe it or not in the Senate, and saying, craft us a SAVE Act that will pass muster under the Budget Control Act and can be blessed by the parliamentarian. And some of my colleagues, those Oliver Wendell Scalia types, they say, Kennedy, you know, that you'll never be able to do that. They don't know. I've been here 10 years. I've seen things pass muster, survive a bird bath that I didn't think had a hope in hell. And I've seen provisions pass the parliamentarians' judgment under a bird bath that I thought, I've seen them not pass that I thought were slam dunks. You don't know till you try. And we haven't tried. And if this bill is as important as everybody says it is, and I think it is, because we're not just talking about voting, we're talking about the confidence, the trust of the American people in our elections. If this bill is as important as we say it is, we should try it through reconciliation. I haven't...
Sitting right here in my living room, knowing the American flag is flying proudly out on the front porch, I can feel this good change deep in my bones. What makes this moment so powerful is how it connects all of us. President Trump does not just use words, he takes action. He brings people together. He shares the honest truth, and he keeps America first, right at the center of everything. Vice President Vance is the perfect partner for him. Smart, deeply loyal, and always ready to stand up for what is right. Together, they are changing how Washington works. They are not doing it for the fancy politicians, but for the everyday people who get up early every morning and build this nation with their own two hands. These good changes are touching real lives right now. Just picture the owner of a small town diner whose business almost had to close up because things cost too much. Now, they are seeing happy customers come back because President Trump's smart. Rules are helping lower costs for everyone. Or think about a young couple saving their pennies for a little house, knowing that secure, safe elections mean their future choices will truly matter. I spoke with a retired school teacher just last week who told me, "I have waited my whole life for a leader who puts us first." Watching President Trump and Vice President Vance work so hard late into the night gives me chills. This is how we take our beautiful country back. These touching stories are growing and multiplying every single day. Clearing this path means we get faster action on securing our borders, choosing good judges, and making everyday life better with safer streets and good jobs that stay straight. Here at home, and my friends, the time to act is right this very minute. President Trump is making absolutely sure we do not waste a single day. He is out there making sure the leaders step up to do their jobs. Senator Thune has heard the voices of the people loud and clear during those late sessions, and the old roadblocks are crumbling under the weight of our shared hope. This is the exact kind of brave leadership that inspires our kids to love their flag. It reminds old-timers like me why we must never, ever give up. America's best and brightest days are not behind us. They are being built right now by a president who refuses to settle for the old, broken ways. Folks, this is a massive, wonderful win for all of us. The power is shifting back to the people right where it belongs. President Trump's vision of a strong, secure, and prosperous America is breaking through the clouds like a warm ray of sunshine. Keep your faith strong. Keep using your voice and keep praying for our nation. Because with President Trump and Vice President Vance leading the way, the path is clear. Our America First hopes are moving forward, and this great country is rising once more. God bless President Trump, God bless Vice President Vance, and God bless the United States of America. We are just getting started. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here on Truth Horizon. If this story warmed your heart and gave you hope for our great nation, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share this message with everyone you know. It helps us keep shining a bright light on the truth. Take care, God bless, and I will see you next time.